What if I told you there is an obscure indie platformer developed by Italians for the PlayStation 2 that has a protagonist a humanized wolf? Well, you probably told me two things. Firstly, that you read the title of the video and there is no need to introduce you with a rhetorical question. And second, wait, did you say Italian? That's right, we're diving in this tricolor rabbit hole that is Ruff Trigger. But first things first, roll the intro. Ruff Trigger the Vanocore Conspiracy was one of my childhood games, and to this day I own the original copy. Interestingly enough, for all this time I never knew the game was developed in Italy until a few weeks ago, sparking in me the desire to give this title another go after so many years. The title was certainly not a AAA production, but I remember having fun with it and finding the character in the cover very cool. The game was released the 20th of June 2006 for Sony's PlayStation 2. The developers of the games are Playstos Entertainment, a small development team located in Milano that developed this title as well as a few games down the line. Now the Northern Italian company rebranded to Inkmine and does 3D modeling and animation, with some of the original developers moving to Milestone, a studio known for the MotoGP games. For the publisher Natsume, I have even less information. They are still active by publishing very small projects here and there. Surprisingly, Ruff Trigger is not based on an Italian cartoon or comic as I originally believed. For all I can see, the sci-fi location, the characters, the plot premise are all original, though I do think the wolf protagonist may be a vague reference to Lupo Alberto, a popular town comic from back in the days, but I could be completely wrong. But what about the game itself, I hear you asking? Is it any good? Well, the short answer is, it isn't, but it's not awful either. The critics from the time graded the game around 5 out of 10, a grading that I would confirm 20 years later. The game works and is playable from start to finish, but many are the flaws that make it hard to give anything more than a D-. But one thing at a time, let us review Ruff Trigger the Vanocore Conspiracy completely. Ruff Trigger is half a platformer and half a shooter, similar-ish to Ratchet & Clank and other PS2 games through those years. You play as Ruff the Wolf, the space bounty hunter that is assigned a peculiar mission by his boss named the Boss. That's convenient. Together with Cecily, it is the player's duty to uncover mysterious incidents around various planets and save these cute-looking aliens called the Piglots. The very first cutscene of the game already reveals the, let's just say, budget graphics the game has. And know that I'm running the game in a virtual machine with some graphical enhancements. I'm not uploading a crunchy 3/4 40dp video on YouTube in 2023. But nevertheless, the graphics of the game as well as the artistic style aged quite a bit. Even for the standards back then, the game looked outdated, even if not as atrocious as other low-budget titles. The gist of most levels is to save these piglets by bringing them in special teleportation zones scattered around the map. Some are mandatory to save and some facultative, but the more you bring and the more you can upgrade your weapons and ammo. In fact, there are two currencies in the game, the yin-yang looking coins obtained by either exploring, killing enemies or saving the piglets, and the floating floppy disks that are needed to buy weapons and armors from the shops. Before you ask it, no, floppy disks were not the Italian currency before the euro, that would be the Italian lira, that was worth even less than floppy disks. The game's tutorial level teaches you everything you need to know for the combat, every combo, every move and every button combination, which there are surprisingly many. The only thing the game does not reveal to you is that most of these combos will never be used in the actual game, since smash smash jump smash always does the trick. I honestly forgot there were combos to begin with before rewatching the captured video footage you see on screen. As seen in the first cutscene, Ruff also has guns with various effects, from classic pistols to shotguns to rocket launchers. These guns are surprisingly varied, even if again you will be using half at most throughout the adventure. Not that there is no variation, it's just that you don't really need to upgrade your gear that much. It would make much more sense if some enemies could have been damaged only or at least more efficiently by using specific combos or firearms. In the second level, you learn the ability to turn into a werewolf, just like Sonic in that one game we will not talk about today. Being a werewolf enhances your jumps, but are unable to use weapons. You do unlock many special powers after boss fights, but at this point you get the gist. You will use just like 3 of them at most. Enemies are somewhat different, but nothing truly out of this world, such as the worlds you will be exploring. In the various levels, you may encounter different piglets too, being there, the default one, the feral one, the invisible the one that explodes, the nerd, the one I still don't get the ability of, and the default one that everyone in the game fat shames.
They're rough. Whatever it is, I'm surprised it doesn't have planets orbiting around it.
I bet you were picked on as a kid too.
Those were different times. Again, they are basically all the same, point being that the game does have notable variation, but this variation is often underused, making the game feel monotonous to play. The game design does not improve this monotony, being levels very linear and not always well designed. The locations explored are okay, and there was a care of detail put into making every level at least distinguishable, but how these levels are designed from a gaming point of view is far from perfect. Take these jumps for instance. They are very hard to pull off, not because the game is challenging, but because jumping feels sloppy and distances never feel quite right. To be fair, the game is not hard, so it is improbable you will get stuck. Actually, now that I'm replaying the game as an adult, I find the overall experience fairly easy, while as a child the game was certainly more challenging. There are some bosses that are too easy, like the Armageddon, a guy you get to fight like 6 times and it takes less than 5 seconds to defeat, but there are some others like the Guardian that require some more skill. Not much, but some at the very least. What does not take skill but luck are the motorbike levels. Remember how I said earlier in the video that some developers moved to the studio milestone to develop MotoGP games? Well, I'm now worried about those games controls because the ones in Ruff Trigger are sloppy, unresponsive and a pain to control. The first level is not too bad, but the other two really take a toll. The puzzles within the game do not take an engineer like myself to complete. Most of them are fairly easy and there are hidden areas interesting to discover. Sure, you may end up with far too many extra money and lives that you are clueless on how to spend in the late game, but I do not find this to be a negative aspect, although I would be lying if I did not say that these puzzles also get repetitive. And maybe that's the core critique I can make to Ruff Trigger, its repetitiveness. The game tries to vary the experience with different weapons, enemies, piglets and whatnot, but in all honesty, the game is played in the same way for all levels that compose the adventure. What is the point of having all this arsenal at your disposal if the game will not even hide the fact that you are quite literally doing the same thing over and over? I did not address the plot much because there is barely any. There are cutscenes, but they do not develop the characters nor the world they are present in. I was not expecting Dante's Divine Comedy Furry version, but at least some good comedy for God's sake. The voice acting both in English and Italian is... Actually, you know what? I will let you hear it.
I should've known. Well, we'll miss you.
I promise you some quality time if you survive the mission. Cecily is taking you to end dust.
Certo, boss, ma sappi che mi mancherai tantissimo.
Potrai sempre rivedermi a missione completata, se ne esci vivo. Comunque, la missione parte da questo momento. Cecily ti condurrà sul pianeta Endust.
But maybe I've been a bit too harsh on the game. After all, I did play it from start to finish, so there are some redeemable characteristics. From starters, locations in the game are variegated, with most levels having distinct biomes that makes the progression of the game feel a little bit more evident. You explore volcanoes, underwater labs, caves, spaceships and more. In addition, I would say that the experience never feels frustrating, boring at times but never on the nerve. I don't suppose it was the objective of the developers, but the game is quite relaxing in some way, an enjoyment that comes from the balance between exploration, platforming and combat, for how not brilliant these three variables are individually. The minigames you unlock throughout the adventure are actually not half bad. There are no masterpieces, but when there were no smartphones, having these extra arcade games in the same game disc was a neat touch. At least my younger self enjoyed them. The game's shortcomings are many, but not an individual element of the game is dreadful. It's just like the old saying, jack of all trades, master to none, but in reverse. A game so mediocre that it gets a bad grade, but it shows potential, or at the very least redemption, being after all, my childhood Italian made video game. There are not many games that were developed in Italy. Heck, I made a whole video years ago explaining why, so I made it my mission to review unknown Italian games on this channel, the good, the bad and the ugly. Ruff Trigger, the Vanocore Conspiracy is one of the most mediocre games I've ever played. It is not horrible, but it certainly does not shine in anything it does. I would neither recommend nor discourage you for playing Ruff Trigger. The game has flaws, yet I still like replaying my childhood game, that is totally not furry bait and the reason why my username is Blue Fox. Damn it, Tito will make so much fun of me after I release this video. Searching for information about the game, I got the following from ChatGPT. Despite this, the game has developed a cult following among fans of quirky and offbeat games. I'm not too sure if I can deny nor confirm this statement, but for what I can see of the internet there are videos, guides and yes, even speedruns of Ruff Trigger, so I am glad that I'm not the only one that remembered this forgotten PlayStation 2 title. If you made it this far, I wanted to thank you one too many Ruff Trigger times for watching today's video. I find making reviews of obscure games quite entertaining, so if you know more, ideally Italian-made games of course, for me to play and review, you are more than welcome to leave your suggestions down below. If you liked the video, do not forget to leave it a like, to share it and to subscribe for more. I wish you a wonderful day, and until next time, arrivederci!